The story of Hannah is one of faith, heartbreak, and transformation. It's a tale that shows how deep sorrow and relentless devotion can lead to extraordinary blessings. Let's dive into this remarkable narrative from the Bible, exploring Hannah's journey and uncovering powerful lessons for our lives. And before we begin, if you love engaging biblical stories like this one, don't forget to like this video, comment below, and subscribe to our channel. Let's grow together in faith and understanding. Hannah's story unfolds in the early chapters of 1 Samuel, during a critical time in Israel's history. This was a period of transition where the nation was moving from being led by judges to the establishment of kings. Hannah's husband, Elkanah, was a devout and loving man, but their marriage was shadowed by an agonizing void. Hannah could not bear children. In ancient Israel, a woman's ability to have children was seen as her primary purpose and a blessing from God. Without children, Hannah faced not only personal heartache, but also societal shame. Her barrenness was viewed by many as a divine curse, and this stigma weighed heavily on her heart. To make matters worse, Elkanah had another wife, Peninnah, who had children and took every opportunity to mock and belittle Hannah. Year after year, Peninnah's taunts would intensify, especially during their family's annual trips to the tabernacle at Shiloh. These spiritual pilgrimages, meant to be times of worship and celebration, became a source of profound sorrow for Hannah. But instead of letting bitterness consume her, Hannah turned to God with a desperate and unwavering faith. One day, overwhelmed by her grief, Hannah entered the tabernacle and poured out her soul before the Lord. Her prayer was raw, heartfelt, and utterly courageous. She wept bitterly and made a vow, promising that if God gave her a son, she would dedicate him to the Lord for all the days of his life. This was no ordinary prayer. It was an act of total surrender. As she prayed silently, her lips moving but no sound coming out, the high priest Eli observed her. Mistaking her deep anguish for drunkenness, he rebuked her. But when Hannah explained her sorrow and the earnestness of her prayer, Eli's tone changed. He blessed her, saying, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him." What's remarkable is how Hannah's demeanor shifted after this encounter. Although her circumstances hadn't changed, she wasn't pregnant yet. She left the tabernacle with a newfound peace. Her faith in God's ability to act in his perfect timing transformed her sorrow into hope. This moment reminds us that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs start with a change in our hearts, even before we see a change in our situations. In due time, God answered Hannah's heartfelt prayer. She conceived and gave birth to a son whom she named Samuel, meaning heard by God. For Hannah, Samuel's birth was more than just the fulfillment of her personal desire, it was a testament to God's faithfulness. But Hannah's story didn't end there. True to her vow, she brought Samuel to the tabernacle once he was weaned, around the age of 3, and dedicated him to the Lord's service. Imagine the emotions Hannah must have felt in that moment. After longing for a child for so many years, she was now giving him up, entrusting his future entirely to God. This act of obedience was both heart-wrenching and deeply inspiring. It demonstrated Hannah's profound faith and her willingness to honor her promise, no matter the cost. But there's more to Hannah's story. After dedicating Samuel to the Lord, her heart overflowed with gratitude and praise. She lifted up a powerful song of thanksgiving which is recorded in the Bible. This song, often called Hannah's Prayer, celebrates God's sovereignty, justice, and power to reverse human circumstances. Hannah declared, "The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap." Her words resonate as a profound reminder that God can transform our lowest moments into triumphs, our deepest sorrows into songs of joy. This prayer also foreshadows Mary's Magnificat, the song she sang when she learned she would give birth to Jesus. Both women recognized that their personal blessings were part of God's larger plan for humanity, and their faith continues to inspire believers to this day. So, what can we learn from Hannah's story? First, it teaches us the power of persistent prayer. Hannah didn't allow her pain to drive her away from God. Instead, she brought her anguish directly to him. In doing so, she found peace and ultimately witnessed a miraculous answer to her prayers. Second, Hannah's story reminds us of the importance of surrendering our desires to God. Her willingness to dedicate Samuel to the Lord demonstrates a trust that goes beyond personal gain. When we give our deepest desires to God, He can use them in ways that exceed our imagination. Also, Hannah's faith shows us that even in the face of ridicule, disappointment, and societal pressure, we can find hope and strength in God. Her life is a testament to the truth that God sees our struggles, hears our prayers, and responds in His perfect timing. As we reflect on Hannah's story, let's be encouraged to bring our own burdens to God with the same faith and fervor. No matter what challenges we face, we can trust that He is working behind the scenes, turning our trials into testimonies. Her journey also reminds us of the importance of perseverance in faith. Though Hannah endured years of sorrow and ridicule, she never stopped seeking God. In our own lives, when faced with challenges, we can look to her story for inspiration to keep praying, trusting and believing that God is working even when we cannot see it. If there's one thing Hannah's story underscores, it's the transformative power of prayer. It's not just about asking for what we desire. It's about aligning our hearts with God's will and trusting Him with the outcome. Hannah's prayer was raw, honest, and deeply personal. Yet it resonated with the divine purpose God had for her life and for Israel. Her faith unlocked blessings that rippled through generations, showing that when we surrender our deepest longings to God, He can turn them into something far greater than we could ever imagine. We need to understand that, trusting God in the waiting. Hannah's years of waiting for a child were marked by anguish and prayer. Yet in her pain, she never turned away from God. Instead, she leaned into Him, pouring out her heart with honesty. Her story teaches us that seasons of waiting are not wasted. They refine us, deepen our faith, and draw us closer to God. If you are in a season of waiting, take heart. Like Hannah, your prayers are not in vain and God's timing is perfect. Also, we need to surrender to God's will. When Hannah made her vow to dedicate her son to God, she was surrendering her deepest desire. This act of faith illustrates the power of releasing control and trusting God with the outcome. We often cling tightly to our dreams and plans, but Hannah's story shows us the beauty of placing everything in God's hands. When we do, He can take our offerings and multiply them in ways we never imagined. Finally, there is God's faithfulness through generations. Samuel's life and ministry stand as a testament to God's faithfulness. Not only did He answer Hannah's prayer, but He used Samuel to guide an entire nation. This reminds us that our faith and obedience can have a generational impact. The seeds we plant in prayer and faith today can bear fruit far beyond our lifetime. Let Hannah's story encourage you to bring your deepest struggles and desires before God. No matter how barren your situation may seem, remember that God specializes in bringing life to barren places. Trust in His timing, His plan, and His ability to do the impossible. And before you leave, if this story inspired you, please hit the like button, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing these incredible biblical stories. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when our next story is out. Until next time, stay blessed and keep trusting in God's faithfulness.